Hello dear students, good morning. How are you all? I hope you all are fine. In previous lecture, we have started a new chapter in the pteridophytes, right? And chapter name is the types of stele and the stellar evolution. And we have completed a one type of the stele. Stele name is a protostele, right? And protostele having a five another subtypes of the stele: haplostele, actinostele, plactostele, mixed protostele, and the last is a mixed protostele with a pith. And here haplostele types of the very primitive type of the stele, and mixed protostele with pith is advanced type of the protostele, right? But in previous lecture, uh, some student having a question: what is a medullary rays and what is a leaf trace, right? So we can start this lecture from there. So here one term is a medullary rays, right? So actually what is a what is a constituent of the stele? The normally steles consist of the xylem, phloem, pericycles and the medullary rays with pith if are the present. So here pith is some types of stele having a present, and some type of stele in pith is absent, right? Because primitive types of the stele having a no pith like structure, right? So here one term, what is a medullary rays? So medullary rays is a very essential for the radial conduction of the water, nutrition and the other organic substance, right? Which type of the conduction? Only please remember only one word, radial conduction, right? So which type of the radial conduction? So they transport the substance. Which type of substance? Water, minerals, other organic substance. These all types of substance from center to periphery, right? So this medullary rays work. So these type of the mineral substance are the conduct center to periphery from the center to periphery side the transport, right? So these rays are also known as a vascular rays, and another name is a pith rays, right? So normally કામ શું થયું મેડ્યુલરી રેઝનું સેન્ટરથી પેરિફેરી સાઈડ એને ટ્રાન્સપોર્ટ કરે કેને મિનરલ્સ વોટર્સ ઓર્ગેનિક જે સબસ્ટન્સ હશે એને રાઈટ સો ક્લિયર and another term is a leaf trace. So what is a leaf trace? Actually this leaf trace is a very thin layer vascular bundle. કેવું હશે? Very thin vascular bundle, and it is present in the stem, right? Normally leaf trace are the present in the stem, and this leaf trace extending between the connections with leaf, right? So this leaf trace are the connections between stem and the leaf, right? So with another vascular unit are the connect with directly stems vascular bundles and leaf vascular bundles, right? So these leaf trace are the between the connections stems and the leaf, right? And today we are starts another type of the stele is a Siphonostele, right? And some peoples are the pronouns Siphonostele, right? So actually these steles are the evolved to protostele, right? A stele with pith, that means the medulla at the present in the stele is called Siphonostele, right? In protostele having a no pith, but here Siphonostele having a pith, right? This is called a Siphonostele, and the central core of the pith is surrounded by the xylem, and pith are obviously present in the center part of the stem, leaf, etc., right? These pith are the present in the center part, and every time this pith is surrounded by the xylem. Xylem always surrounded by the phloem, and phloem always surrounded by the pericycle, and pericycle surrounded by the endodermis, right? So Siphonostele is the advanced type of the stele, right? And the Siphonostele are the evolved to protostele. So what is the origin of the Siphonostele? જો આમાં ઇવોલ્યુશન સાથે સાથે જ છે, બરોબર, કોઈ અલગ ટોપિક નથી. So normally this Siphonostele is derived from the protostele, right? And by the formation of the pith in the center. And the centrally placed xylem core in the protostele is replaced by the parenchymatous pith, right? કેવી રીતના બન્યું છે, તમે સેન્ટરના પાર્ટમાં ઝાયલમ જોતા હતા, બરોબર, તો પ્રોટોસ્ટેલી હતી, એની અંદર પીથ જેવી રચના હતી નહીં, તો એવામાં આની અંદર શું થયું હતું, એ જગ્યાએ પેરેન્કાઇમેટસ પીથ છે એ આવી ગઈ, રાઈટ. સો ડિફરન્ટ સ્ટેજીસ ઓફ ધ ચેન્જિંગ ઓફ ધ પ્રોટોસ્ટેલી ટુ સેફોનોસ્ટેલી can be observed in the transfer section at a different levels, right? In some, like the species is Glinchenia, Osmunda and the Anemia, right? So first time this type of the stele observed in this plant, and this all plant is included in the Pteridophytes, right? So normally there are the two views regarding the origin of the pith in the Siphonostele, right? So which two types? So first is the interstellar origin of the pith, and another is the extrastellar origin of the pith. So what is the difference between this term? So first is the interstellar origin of pith. According to this theory, the innermost vascular tissue, that means the centrally placed vascular tissue, is a protostele, changes into the parenchymatous cells. આ એક વખત આવી ગઈ, બરોબર. So this type of theory proposed by Boers in the 1923, and one scientist supported this theory. His name is Fan in 1960. And this theory is the most widely accepted theory of the pith development, right? So પહેલી વખત બોવેરે ઇન 1923 ની અંદર જ્યારે જોયું પીથ, બરોબર, ત્યારે એને આ વસ્તુ કીધી કે ઇનર મોસ્ટ પાર્ટની અંદર પીથ છે એ ડેવલપ થાય છે, રાઈટ. તો એને એવું કીધું કે આ પીથ છે એ પ્રોટોસ્ટેલી પછી જોવા મળે છે, એટલે કે આ ઇવોલ્યુશન થયું છે પ્રોટોસ્ટેલીમાંથી. તો એને આ જે થિયરી આપી એને સપોર્ટ કરવાવાળો પહેલો વ્યક્તિ કોણ હતો? એ ફાન. આગળ એ છે, બરોબર, એ ફાન એનું આખું નામ છે. એ ફાને એને સપોર્ટ કર્યો, અને મોસ્ટલી આ થિયરી છે એ એક્સેપ્ટ કરવામાં આવી છે. એન્ડ અનધર views of the extrastellar origin of the pith, right? So here according to this theory, the pith is formed as a result of the invention of the cortical parenchymatous cell. So cortical regions, right? So this invention of the pith occurs through the leaf gap or the branch gap. So what is a leaf gap? So જેવું લીફ ટ્રેસ હતું, બરોબર, તો લીફ ટ્રેસ, બરોબર, પણ એ જ રીતના લીફ ગેપ, કે બે લીફ ટ્રેસ હોય એની વચ્ચે જો જગ્યા હોય તેને લીફ ગેપ કહેવાય, ના હોય તો એને ના કહેવાય, બરોબર. So thus the pith and the cortex are the homogeneous structure. That means the pith and the cortex are the similar in the characteristics, right? This according to this theory, and this theory proposed by the Jaffrey, and it is not accepted by the most of the author since in the many pteridophytes, right? And there is a stele without the leaf gap but having the pith in the center, right? So here leaf gap is absent, but pith are the present in the anatomical structure, all pteridophytes. So let's start actually two different types of the Siphonostele, right? So based on the position and the distribution of the phloem, and આ બે ટાઈપ કેના આધારે પડ્યા છે? So normally these two types are the differentiate, so based on the position of the phloem, right? જેવી રીતના આપણે પ્રોટોસ્ટેલીમાં ઝાયલમના શેપના આધારે શેપ અલગ અલગ ડિવાઈડ એના પાર્ટ પડ્યા છે. એવી રીતના આની અંદર ફ્લોએમની પોઝિશન જોઈને આ વસ્તુ બે ભાગ છે એ વેચાણા છે. સો નોર્મલી ટુ ટાઈપ્સ ઓફ ધ સિફોનોસ્ટીલી રિપોર્ટેડ અમોંગ ધ ટેરિડોફાઇટ્સ. That's like the first is a ectoploic siphonostele and another is a amphiploic siphonostele. Right? So which type? First is a ectoploic siphonostele and another is a amphiploic siphonostele. So first is a ectoploic siphonostele. Right? So here phloem is present only on the external side of the xylem. That means xylem surrounded by the phloem, right? So no other change with the like that the primitive types of the stele, right? Just are the difference here. Pith is present in the center part, right? Everything is similar. So the pith is present at the central positions and the phloem is externally surrounded by the pericycle and the endodermis. So like that pith is surrounded by the xylems. So this xylem surrounded by this phloem and this phloem surrounded by the pericycles and the endodermis, right? So leaf trace here the present but leaf gap is absent, right? So here normally leaf trace is a present. And what is a leaf trace? Actually leaf trace is a very thin vascular bundle. And this type of the siphonostele, that means the ectoploic siphonostele, first time seen in the Osmunda and the Caesia, right? And another type of the amphiploic siphonostele. So what is the difference between these two terms, amphiploic and the actinostele? Ectoploic siphonostele, right? So here two ring of the phloem are the present, right? So phloem is present on the both side of the xylems, right? So inner side of the phloem is present and the outer side of course is present, right? So here phloem's rings are the externally and the internally both side is present. So the central portion of the stele is occupied by the pith, right? So here pith is present in the central part. And what is the change? So xylems on its inner side, it's surrounded by, here center part is a pith. Here center part is a pith, right? And this pith is surrounded by the xylem, and these xylem are the surrounded by, that means the inner side, inner phloem, inner pericycles and the inner endodermis is present. So here this layer is a xylem, right? So inner xylem's inner side, inner phloem is present, and then the inner pericycle is present, and then the inner endodermis is present. So normally here this pith are the surrounded by the endodermis, right? Inner endodermis, inner pericycles, inner phloems and then the xylems, right? And these xylems on its outside surrounded by the outer phloem, outer pericycles and outer endodermis, right? So this is a main difference, right? And normally this type of the arrangement seen in the Marcellia and the Adiantum, right? So these are the main difference. So we can see in the clearly here no any rings are the formed in the center part, but here center part is a very small, right? Because here inner phloem, inner pericycle and inner endodermis are the developed, right? So in the ectoploic siphonostele having a center part have a pith, and this pith is surrounded by the xylem, and this xylem surrounded by the phloem, and this phloem are the surrounded by the pericycles and the endodermis, and here leaf traces are the present, right? And leaf gap are the absent. And similarly amphiploic siphonostele having two ring of the phloem, pericycle and the endodermis. So normally in the center part having this pith, and this pith are the very small region in the anatomical region, right? So very smaller region of the spith, and this spith is surrounded by inner endodermis, inner pericycles and the inner phloem, right? And then the xylem ring is observed, and these xylem rings outside having a outer phloem, outer pericycles and outer endodermis. So here xylem having a one ring, but phloem, pericycles and endodermis two rings are the form, right? So these are the main difference between the amphiploic Siphonostele and ectoploic Siphonostele, right? First type is the actinostele, right? મેં એ જ વર્ડ પહેલાં યુઝ કર્યો હતો, ભૂલથી એ વર્ડ આવી ગયો હતો, બરોબર. એક્ટિનોસ્ટેલી, actually actinostele is a types of the protostele, and this ectoploic Siphonostele, and this ectoploic is a type of the Siphonostele. So right, and these are the in the microscopic observe. So this type of the arrangement of this stele, this is the ectoploic Siphonostele observed in the Osmunda, and this is the Marcellia, right? And the Marcellia, which part? Rhizomes, right? This is the amphiploic Siphonostele. So these are the main difference between the ectoploic Siphonostele and the amphiploic Siphonostele, right? Then the third part of the Solenostele, and this type of the stele we are the discuss about in the next lecture, right?